Brookland is Live starts right now with breaking news.
That's right, we are starting with breaking news on this Thursday. It's good to be with you. I'm Jackson Mitchell. We are following a number of headlines. Again, thank you for joining us. It is Thursday, May 28th, 2026 here. We have a special 2-hour edition of Brookland News Live planned for you, so stick with us for that. I will bring that all to you live. That breaking news we are going to start with is the war in Iran. We've just gotten in some developing details here. We want to bring those to you right now that we are learning. That is, those details, are that a 60-day extension to the current ceasefire has been reached between both the U.S. and Iran. Here's what we know right now, and I'm going to read here because Reuters is reporting this. They say the U.S. and Iran have reached an agreement on a memorandum, of understanding to extend their ceasefire for 60 days, but U.S. President Donald Trump has yet to approve it, for sources familiar with the source told Reuters. A live look right now at the Strait of Hormuz. Traffic right now from marine traffic there, showing again another slow day within this agreement. I need a drink of water here. We are learning there is a end to the U.S. blockade of the Strait of Hormuz. So this is all going to be something to watch here. This comes as there was already a fragile ceasefire in effect, as Iran had claimed it targeted an American military base in response to recent airstrikes in southern Iran, while Kuwait, I believe is how you pronounce it, says its air defense systems intercepted drones and missiles overnight. U.S. officials say American forces also shot down several Iranian attack drones over the Strait of Hormuz, which again is what has caused gas prices to spike as high as they have, is the Strait of Hormuz. I want to show you a post that came out this morning from CENTCOM. This is the U.S. Central Command, which has been leading the efforts from the U.S. in Iran, saying, quote, at 10:17 p.m. on May 27th, this is in Eastern Time, so 9:17 on the 27th, which was yesterday, Iran launched a ballistic missile toward Kuwait that was successfully intercepted by Kuwaiti forces. This egregious ceasefire violation by the Iranian regime occurred hours after Iranian forces launched 5 one-way attack drones that posed a clear threat in and near the Strait of Hormuz. All drones were successfully intercepted by U.S. forces, which also prevented a 6th drone loss from an Iranian ground control site in Bandar Abbas. U.S. Central Command regional partners remain vigilant and measured as we continue to defend our forces and interests from unjustified Iranian aggression. There you go. That's the post there coming in from CENTCOM, talking about a missile and drones that were launched towards Kuwait. We also have a clip to show you that came from just moments ago at the White House. Scott Bessent spoke there, was holding the press briefing as Caroline Leavitt is on maternity leave. If you were with us just a few moments ago for that Brookland News special report, you already have seen this moment. But this is Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent when he was pressed about this reported ceasefire, 60-day extension to the current ceasefire, I should say. Take a listen here.
You're the White House briefer today. I know you've been asked this already, but I'm wondering if you can just confirm on the record that there is a tentative deal that has been agreed for a 60-day extension of the ceasefire and then a continuation of nuclear talks.
Again, it's always a mistake to get out ahead of the president, so it is all going to be the president's decision. I think that we can see that the president very clearly stated his 3: the open the strait, highly enriched uranium, no nuclear program. So
are those things part of the temporary deal right now, sir? Are those 3 aspects that you just outlined part of the temporary deal that has been agreed?
that if there can be no deal without those, why would there be a deal without those?
Yeah, there. So Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent on all of this. Live look now at the Strait of Hormuz traffic once again, saying this deal, appearing to have allude to the fact that this deal does include the three big things that the U.S. has been asking for: the opening of the Strait of Hormuz, the no enriched uranium, which is what is used to create a nuclear weapon, going on there. Of course, the escalation continues to come as negotiations over reopening the Strait of Hormuz. Now, at this point in time, I had originally written in my notes here that it appeared to be breaking down, but now we're getting this new reporting, and one of those big things is that the Strait of Hormuz has to be open. At least that's both for the Iranians, and Americans. President Donald Trump said the U.S. would not allow Iran to control the waterway, and even warned Oman not to enter into any agreement with Tehran over the strait. Iran's Revolutionary Guards have threatened, quote, a more decisive response if U.S. strikes continue, while oil prices have surged again as fears continue to grow over a wider regional conflict here. So far, if you remember at the beginning of all of this, at the beginning of the U.S. Striking Iran and Israel striking Iran, if you would remember, the U.S. had asked for other countries to help out. Those countries, almost none, had helped out. The president originally scrutinized them heavily. Now we're seeing still the same fears of a wider regional war continue here. I want to take you right now to where gas prices stand, because that has been the question throughout this whole war, because it is the one thing that all Americans, most Americans I should say, use, and they are seeing effects. Today the national average down 3 cents from yesterday at 4.42, yesterday 4.45. Here in Arkansas, remaining steady at about an average of $4. Jonesboro 3.92, which is down just a little bit from not only the national average, but from the state average. It has remained pretty close to the state average continuously here. So, another big story to watch here. If we get an update while we are on the air, and I'm continuing to refresh President Trump's social media pages to see if he reacts or says anything, and I'm also watching my phone for any notifications. If we get any type of update on the Iran war, we will talk about it, of course. This is a special 2-hour edition of Brookland News Live, so you got 2 hours with me here, and we're going to talk in the second hour more about the war in Iran as well. So stick with us here as we will be following all of these major details that have come in within the last about 2 hours or so on an agreement between the Iranians and Americans on a ceasefire in this war. Want to turn to some breaking news here that came in yesterday. Former Attorney General Pam Bondi now revealing she has been diagnosed with cancer. In a post, or I should say in a story that broke first on Axios, or taking a look at the headline there on your screen, the former Attorney General announced she had been diagnosed with thyroid cancer. According to this new report, sources say the cancer was recently discovered during a medical evaluation, and Pam Bondi is expected to begin treatment soon. Her team says the condition was caught early and that she remains in good spirits as she prepares for the treatment. Such a good thing, as she is not the first former White House official to have been diagnosed with cancer. We know that I should say to have a story of cancer, as the husband of the former director of national intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, was also diagnosed with cancer. This Axios reporting goes on to say that she has underwent treatment and is recovering. The reporting also notes that Bondi will soon be on the Presidential Council of Advisors on Science and Technology, which will include top not only artificial CEOs, but I believe it's NVIDIA and a few others, so big tech CEOs. So it's going to be a story to watch here. Again, former Attorney General Pam Bondi revealing that she has been diagnosed with cancer. Big treatment on getting rid of this cancer, set to start soon is what that reporting goes on. But that it was caught early and treatment has started. Excuse me, there's something in my eye here. My apologies. Okay. Want to turn to this big story. It broke over the weekend. I should say, earlier this week. I'm thinking it's a Monday because it's the first time that I have been live. There's still something in my eye here. I'm going to be trying to get it out, but we're still going to talk about the news here. Ken Paxton, the former Texas Attorney General, winning the primary runoff to become the next senator to go forward in the race to become the next senator for in Texas. Excuse me here. Take a look at the election results on your screen there. John Cornyn, Ken Paxton advanced to a runoff after no candidate was able to get above 50% in the primary. This all happened on Texas with several close races drawing national attention, especially this one right here. It's one to talk about. The runoffs will help determine which candidates advance to the general election in November, including key congressional and statewide contests that could impact the balance of power in Washington. There are multiple big races as well to watch. The race for the Senate. You might remember their names here. James Tallarico. He was the Democrat, not the one you're seeing on your screen, but the Democrat that won outright back in the primaries to go forward. That was against Jasmine Crockett. A live look at Capitol Hill there. John Cornyn, Ken Paxton couldn't make it to run outright, so they went to the primary runoffs here. And it was another test to see how President Trump's endorsement would work here. It ended up working in favor of what the Republicans wanted here. It's the second time now that we've watched this happen. Ken Paxton was endorsed by President Trump, not the incumbent here, John Cornyn. So that was something notable to hear. So a big race and a big test for how important a Trump endorsement is. Trump kind of flexed this earlier, saying, well, I don't care about the midterms. You already saw what happened in Texas. I don't care anymore. Basically, my endorsements are winning. So a big race here to watch. Want to play a clip now as Tallarico, the Democrat, and Paxton are already full speed ahead in their campaign, as Democrats believe they've got a big chance to to win this seat that is primarily, I should say, mostly red, really. Take a listen.
This is the rot at the core of our broken political system. It's why we can't afford anything. It's why we can't get ahead no matter how hard we work. For 50 years, billionaire mega donors and their puppet politicians like Ken Paxton have stolen from us. Trickle-down economics is not a theory, it's theft. They have been stealing from the American people with their bribes, their bailouts, and their billionaire tax breaks.
But no matter what you call him, let me tell you this. James Tallarico is a threat to everything we hold dear in this state and in this country. He's a threat to our security and our safety.
So just another big race that we are following. Tuesday set for a few more states to have their primaries. We are watching it all and will bring you updates. When we return, we will have the cause of death that has been revealed for NASCAR driver Kyle Busch, who died at the age of 41 very early. What we're now learning. We'll talk a little later in the second hour about sepsis, how he died here, and I'll reveal it here, and I didn't mean to, but we'll talk a little more about that. So stick with us for that. And as I look here ahead, you might have heard about this story. A shooter at the White House while President Trump was in it. This happened over the weekend. We're going to bring you what you need to know about that. And former First Lady Jill Biden now revealing she thought, well, former President Biden was having a stroke during that disastrous debate performance that ultimately really led to Democrats saying, well, it's your time to drop out, Joe. We're going to talk about it. That is coming up here right now on Brookland News Live. Stick with us. We will be right back. Alrighty, welcome back here live in a Brooklyn News Live. I'm Jackson Mitchell. 2:17 is the time now. Let's get right to all of the big stories everybody is paying attention to. This one growing lots of attention. So over the weekend was the Indy 500, and of course it came just days after the death of top NASCAR driver, you could say, Kyle Busch. He died at the age of 41. His cause of death has since been revealed. Here's what we know. It was after he died after a severe case of bacterial pneumonia, which rapidly progressed into sepsis. Devastating there. It caused a series of life-threatening complications. Now, reports say Busch had been battling the illness for days or even weeks while continuing to race before his condition suddenly worsened. The doctors say the sepsis triggered disseminated intravascular coagulation, or DIC, a dangerous condition that causes abnormal blood clotting through the body. Wow, crazy to just read that diagnosis. The complications that eventually led to hemorrhagic, I believe, hemorrhagic. I'm not exactly sure. I tried pronouncing as I was writing this story, these medical diagnoses, but it appears that they may have left my brain here, which is caused by severe bleeding and organ failure. Health experts say Busch's death is now drawing national attention to dangers of sepsis and, well, how quickly a common infection can become deadly if not treated early, and that is for sure. We will talk about the risks of sepsis coming up later in the second hour of Brooklyn News Live, so stick with us for that. A devastating death and loss to the NASCAR family and this country. Drivers, I believe, if I remember this correctly, over the weekend wore his race car number on themselves, I believe, on their jackets as they were racing in the Indy 500 over the weekend. So a devastating story. Hard to read there, just that diagnosis. And again, we'll talk about the concerns of sepsis coming up in the next hour, so stick with us for that. Also, over the weekend, a shooter at the White House while President Trump was inside. It was a crazy, crazy moment. A gunman opened fire near the White House security checkpoint. This happened again over the weekend, triggering a massive Secret Service response and, well, a temporary lockdown, obviously, around the White House complex. Officials say the shooting happened near 17th Street and Pennsylvania Avenue just after 6 p.m. when the suspect pulled a gun from a bag and began firing at officers. Wild. The suspect was identified as 21-year-old Nasir Best of Maryland. Secret Service agents returned fire, which ended up killing the suspect. A bystander had also been hit during the shooting and taken to a hospital. No Secret Service agents were injured, luckily. Reporters had been at the White House. Cameras were live and rolling as it was about time for the evening news on the networks. Take a look at this moment that has since gone viral of an NBC News reporter during the moment. Take a listen. Take a look.
What is that? What is that?
Sounds like fire. That was about 20.
Out.
Everyone to the front briefing room right now.
Yeah, so some scary moments for those White House reporters as you see them racing into the White House press briefing room amid what was a shooter at the White House. Later confirmed to be a shooter. This happened right before the evening news that aired on the networks. Again, just a scary, scary moment at the White House. And it was not the first moment that not only has there been a shooter near the White House, but it was not the first moment that President Trump has been threatened by all of this, and it is so devastating that incidents like this continue to happen and political violence is growing across the nation. Former First Lady Jill Biden now revealing she thought former President Joe Biden, her husband, was having a, was having a stroke during his disastrous debate performance back in 2024. In a new interview, Jill Biden said she became alarmed by her husband's appearance and moments of confusion on stage, saying, well, this moment was, quote, terrifying for their family. Take a listen to this interview that it'll air in full, I believe, on Sunday. Take a listen.
Were you horrified as you saw it unfold?
I wasn't horrified, I was frightened, because I had never, ever seen Joe like that before or since. Never.
Or since?
Yes, or
You've
since.
never seen him like
never.
that?
No.
What happened?
I don't know what happened. I mean, as I watched it, I thought, oh my God, he's having a stroke. And it scared me to death.
As I watched it, I thought he was having a stroke. Wow, just a moment there. You might remember during that debate performance back in 2024. I'm going to show you my report here in just a few moments, but it was the moments that it was the moment within the 2024 election, just about 108 or 109 days. It was just over 100 days before the election, and then after that, the months of weeks really of scrutiny had grown and concern over the health of President Biden and was he really able to serve a second term had grown, and that led to him ultimately dropping out. It was AIDS and himself, I believe, is what the White House had said and released after he had dropped out of the race. They decided while he was in Delaware, taking a break, I believe vacationing maybe for the weekend, decided that it was his time to drop out of the race. He passed the baton to Vice President at the time, Kamala Harris. She would later write a book, 107 Days. That's how many days she had to run a presidential campaign that ultimately failed. She did not win, as we see now. I want to show you my report, though, that aired. This would be a few weeks after the debate. I was going to show you a report during the debate, but I realized I also had a report that was the growing concerns after the debate. Take a listen.
Following a debate performance that Biden has labeled as a, quote, bad day and others have labeled as disastrous, the Biden campaign is vowing to stay in the race for president. Today, President Biden called into MSNBC's Morning Joe, defending his campaign and what he plans to do if he wins another 4 years in the White House, while also attacking his opponent Donald Trump. This comes as rising concerns for Biden's age and mental capacity continue, even from the Democratic Party. President Biden writing a letter to lawmakers as they return from the holiday recess. Quote, I wouldn't be running again if I didn't absolutely believe I was the best person to beat Donald Trump in 2024, the letter said in part. Quote, President Biden addressing the question to if he was going to take a cognitive or neurological test in a recent ABC News interview.
Yet their concerns about your age and your health are growing. So that's why I'm asking, to reassure them, would you be willing to have the independent medical evaluation?
Watch me there's a lot of time left in this campaign. It's over 125 days.
So the answer,
make a decision.
The right answer right now is no, you don't want to do that right now.
I've already done it.
President Biden insisting he takes one every day.
You have repeatedly said that all of these people and entities are wrong. And let me go through them. The New York Times editorial board, The Economist, the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, the Boston Globe, Jerry Nadler, Seth Moulton. Let me go to Julian Castro, Tim Ryan, David Axelrod, David Remnick, Richard Haas. Yeah, I know which one you're responding to there. Zeke Emanuel. But they're saying that you should step aside. So what is your plan of attack moving forward? These are pretty big names.
To go out and keep doing their big names, but I don't care what those big names think. They were wrong in 2020. They're wrong in 2022 about the red wave. They're wrong in 2024. And come out with me. Watch people react. You make a judgment. You make a judgment.
538, a service that collects most public polling, put together all polls that ask the question of likeness for Joe Biden. It shows disapproval up by 19.7%. President Biden, in a recent interview done by ABC News, said that people are telling him that it's a close race, putting in question the authenticity of the polls. Now, the question still remains as to if the president talking to the press and if the president's campaign events are enough to calm Americans' anxiety. Now, late today, the White House press secretary says she is unable to confirm any information about a Parkinson's specialist that visited with the White House doctor, President Biden's doctor. Unable to confirm any of that information. That's what Karine Jean-Pierre, the White House press secretary, did say. But for now, reporting for you, Jackson Mitchell with Brookland News.
Bringing back some memories there, some old reporting. I say old, but it was about a year ago. Things have changed since then. Our reporting has only got better here at Brookland News. That's despite the point, though. What we're talking about here is this moment in history that they'll be there forever, because it was such a big question, and I remember covering it so I remember it had been all of the White House and the Trump administration, at the time the campaign for President Trump had all been like, why all of a sudden is the press jumping to cover the concerns of President Biden? But I had covered it the entire time. I had mentioned it in multiple reports before that, the concerns that some Democrats had for President Biden and his mental capacity. Was he able to visit the White House? And I believe I also, we have a little bit of time to spare here, and I'm going to look it up here. I believe I also did a story over on brooklandnews.com at the time about a Parkinson specialist that had visited the White House. I'm going to look it up on my website here. Yes, I did. Here we go. Let me see. Can I share my screen? Give me one moment, guys. You are watching how this all works behind the scenes here. So I'm going to try sharing my screen here so I can show you guys this report on my website that I'm talking about here. Because, again, we do have a few moments to spare, so why not spare them and do a little bit of last minute reporting, last minute showing you guys some reporting here from my website. And it is pouring down rain here in Brooklyn. Let's go to the RDOT camera right now. It has just started pouring down rain. That is a live look right now at the RDOT camera. I can hear the rain from outside. This comes as some Northeast Arkansas counties are facing flooding, or we'll talk about that later in the hour. Sorry, had to mention that really quickly here. President Biden's doctor releases letter related to Parkinson's specialist visit at White House. I remember I did a report on this. Here is that letter. And then there was also, I believe I remember doing the investigation, because you can see basically the visit logs that the White House uses. And within those visit logs it showed Kevin O'Connor, that it's the White House doctor, but it showed why Dr. Kennard, was visiting the White House, a Parkinson's specialist. So it was a big concern at the time here. Okay, let's talk about this story that is going to come up here in just a few moments. New York Times and multiple other news agencies now out with new reporting that E. Jean Carroll, the woman who has now won multiple lawsuits against President Trump, will talk about the allegations that the DOJ is now trying to pursue against her and is making against her in new actions that have been reported by the New York Times. So an open investigation now into E. Jean Carroll. We'll talk about it when we come back. We've got more stories. I'll talk about a few. We're going to talk about the Ebola outbreak here coming up in a few moments. Multiple different chemical plants in the Washington paper mill chemical plant, an explosion happening at a paper mill there, and then we got one in California we're going to talk about there. Plus, it has been so wet, really wet start to the summer, unofficial start to summer, I should say, because summer doesn't start till I believe June. So we're going to dig into all of that. Because again, as I just noted, I could hear the rain. It has started pouring down rain. We will talk about your forecast coming up here in just a few moments. It is a 2-hour edition of Brookland News Live, guys. When I say we've got time, we've got time. The headlines are the big stories that are making headlines are coming up. You're watching Brookland News Live. We'll be right back here in just a few moments. Welcome back here live in the Brookland News Live. My dog in the background there making a quick cameo appearance as she walks away. Her name is Delilah. I've got 3 dogs here. Actually, they author in my studio. Okay, besides the point, we got some pretty big developing story. New York Times out with new reporting saying there has been an investigation by the Department of Justice into E. Jean Carroll. You might be asking, trying to remind yourself, who is E. Jean Carroll? She is the woman who previously won 2 major civil judgments against Trump, including a $5 million verdict after a jury found Trump liable for sexual abuse and defamation. She also won an $83.3 million defamation judgment. Both verdicts were later upheld on appeal. The New York Times, in their reporting, saying, quote, the investigation centers on on whether Miss Carroll committed perjury in civil lawsuits against Mr. Trump, according to the person who spoke on the condition of anonymity to discuss an ongoing investigation. Ms. Carroll won a $5 million civil judgment against Mr. Trump that he sexually abused and defamed her, which the president last November asked the Supreme Court to overturn. She also won an $83.3 million civil judgment against him in another defamation case. An inquiry into Ms. Carroll would represent the latest chapter in Mr. Trump's retribution campaign, which has been carried out by Trump Justice Department officials. A number of figures, who brought criminal and civil cases against Mr. Trump have come under the department's scrutiny, including James B. Comey, New York Attorney General Letitia James, and other adversaries of the president. Andrew S. Botros, the Trump-appointed U.S. Attorney for the Northern District of Illinois, opened the inquiry into Ms. Carroll. According to the person with knowledge of the situation, the investigation was reported earlier by CNN. So there you go, New York Times reporting on what they say is the Justice Department now opening an investigation, said to open an investigation, into E. Jean Carroll. Again, she has won multiple lawsuits and civil suits, should say, against President Trump. Well, scrutiny is growing about the Trump administration and their handling of the Ebola outbreak here. It's growing more and more. The Trump administration growing more and more scrutiny in about the Ebola outbreak, which is occurring right now in Central and East Africa, where health officials say cases have surged and concerns are rising about global spread. According to reports, U.S. officials have increased airport screening, restricted some travel from affected regions, and expanded CDC support in countries like Uganda and the Democratic Republic of Congo, which is where this is all said to happen. At the same time here, the administration has shifted its strategy toward keeping Ebola cases from entering the United States. Here's Marco Rubio here, his message about all of this at the cabinet meeting yesterday.
Something else that I know is concerning people, because it's on the news, is Ebola. Our number one obligation, we're involved in foreign policy, but even our foreign policy, the number one priority of our foreign policy is to protect the American people. We cannot and will not allow any cases of Ebola to enter the United States. And so the State Department and other agencies represented here, the Centers for Disease Control, HHS, others, are working very, very hard to contain this crisis to the countries where it's currently located, particularly the Democratic Republic of the Congo. And so we've surged assistance to make sure that is being contained there. And obviously, multiple agencies involved here are also very involved in tracking people, just to make sure that nobody comes into this country that has Ebola and creates a problem for us. And we feel like we've got good efforts in place to do that, and Americans should feel assured that the president and his administration is doing everything we can to protect them on that front.
Yeah, so there you go, the Secretary of State saying Ebola will not be allowed inside the United States. So again, it's got to be a story to watch here. Alrighty, Todd Shields, named the next Arkansas State University system president. Take a look. This is a statement after it was announced saying, quote, I am deeply honored by the confidence the ASU system Board of Trustees has placed in me through my appointment as president. Schultz said, I am grateful for their trust, their leadership, and their steadfast commitment to expanding educational opportunity across our state and beyond. While I'm excited about this new opportunity to serve, my heart is filled with gratitude for their relationships that my wife Karen and I have built in Jonesboro. We've had the privilege of working alongside extraordinary students, faculty, staff, alumni, donors, and community partners who believe deeply in this university and its ability to transform lives and strengthen our region. Quote, as I begin this next chapter, please know that my commitment to A-State remains unwavering. Schultz added, as system president, I will continue to be a strong advocate and resource for A-State, working to ensure that the university has every opportunity to build upon its success and continue changing lives. The future of A-State is bright, and I look forward to helping facilitate continued achievement in the year ahead. Todd Jones there, now named the next Arkansas State University system president. Live look in Brookland right now. The rain is coming down harder and harder. Loud thunder now booming through Brookland right now. So, and across NEA, flooding already has begun throughout so many counties. We already told you that a few moments ago. Stick with this here, because in the next block, so after the next commercial break, weather is after that. So stick with us for that. We are going to bring you that. That is coming up here on Brookland News Live. So again, just stick with us. Trust me, when I say we're going to get to it, we are going to get to it on this 2-hour edition of Brookland News Live. Alrighty, to this next story here out of Los Angeles. The race to become the next mayor of Los Angeles nearing a close as the election is at the top of June. So it's going to be something to watch there as it enters its final stretch ahead of the June 2nd primary, with incumbent Mayor Karen Bass facing, a rather competitive field with, you got Spencer Pratt, and then you've also got City Council member Nitya Raymond. The race has become a three-way contest shaped by issues: housing, homelessness, city management, all big ones here. Take a listen to all three candidates talking about all of this. Take a listen.
I never wanted to be the mayor. I just wanted somebody to tell the truth. And by telling the truth, now the people are behind me, and I will continue to speak the truth on behalf of Los Angeles for as far as they want to push me.
Someone needs to be in charge of the whole system. We are spending hundreds of millions of dollars every year on homelessness. And right now in City Hall, there's no one overseeing those dollars. There's no one making sure that every single dollar is delivering results, moving as many people indoors as possible. And as a result, there's a lot of waste.
You said that your goal was to end street homelessness in LA by 2026. It's now 2026.
And we haven't ended it.
We have not ended it, and we're not close to ending it. How are you so off?
Well, basically, when I said that, it was at the beginning of my term. I am very committed to achieving that goal. I didn't anticipate some of the bureaucratic barriers that I would experience.
So there you go. All three of the big mayor candidates in this race. Bass there at the last candidate who spoke there on affordable housing. Coalition building. That is her big two things there. You heard her pressed on homelessness. She's the current mayor. She said she's going to get rid of it by 2026. Here we go. It's not gone just yet. There's still a major homelessness issue. I believe in this interview as well, the reporter who is Alex Michelson, who works at CNN, pointed out homelessness is only down 17% since she has become mayor. She said she would end it. It has not happened just yet. Of course, the fires in Los Angeles and the Palisades and the other places that these fires occurred at throughout Los Angeles last year, still a big story. And her handling of those fires, also a big story. Raymond, the second candidate who spoke there, focusing on things like progressive priorities like rent protections and infrastructure improvements. Pratt also building his campaign around fire response. He has a video that I don't know if we showed it here on air, but I've watched it. It is him as living in a camper because his house was burnt down in those fires, and he is yet to be approved for a permit, I believe was the issue there. So, a story to watch, and we will bring you updates there as soon as we get them. I believe also that was a big thing for Spencer Pratt. I watched his interview this morning on Fox and Friends, and a big thing he pointed out was the fact that there was no major, major way to end homelessness. There we go. Alrighty, Monette, Bono, named the fastest growing cities throughout Northeast Arkansas. According to recent census data, I was trying to find where we were on the notes. Monette's population has increased by more than 4% since 2020, while Bono has seen much stronger growth, surging more than 25% over the same period. Notably, even though Brookland is still growing, not as quickly as it once was. Therefore, Brookland not on this list here. Local leaders say the growth is being driven by proximity to jobs and services in larger cities like Jonesboro, along with new housing, infrastructure projects, and investment in small town development. Both communities are continuing to expand water, sewer, and public services to keep up with new residents while trying to maintain their small town feeling. That is almost the exact words that I've even heard from Brookland Mayor Kenneth Jones, who's noted that while Brookland is growing exponentially, so we still want to maintain, we know our neighbors, we talk to our neighbors, we know everybody. That small town feel is something that I've heard before here. Okay. Want to show you some video now. This is out of California. Stand by here. I'll get to it. A plant there, a chemical plant, forcing evacuations because of the threat that it could explode. Dangerous situation there. Take a look. This is footage of the plant. A major chemical emergency at the GKN Aerospace Facility in Garden Grove, California, has forced, mass evacuations of nearly 40,000 to 50,000 people after a large storage tank began, overheating. And as you saw there, releasing hazardous vapors. Officials say the tank contained methacrylate and highly flammable chemical used in plastics production, and there were concerns it could either rupture or explode if not controlled. Emergency crews have quickly ordered evacuations across multiple Orange County cities, including Garden Grove, Cypress, Stanton, Anaheim, Buena Park, and Westminster. While working to cool and stabilize the tank to the best of their ability, officials warn residents to, leave immediately out of an abundance of caution as the situation developed even through air monitoring, which showed no confirmed toxic plume at this time. That's a good thing, but this is still a dangerous situation out of Garden Grove, California to watch. As the incident continued, authorities later reported signs of a crack in the tank, and that may have helped release some pressure there, reducing the risk of a massive explosion. Some evacuation zones have since been reduced, and residents have started returning home, but officials say monitoring and investigations are still ongoing there. So a dangerous situation out of California, and it is going to be something to watch. Then you've got this second big story. This is out of Washington this time. A paper mill there has left 2 dead. 9 others are presumed dead, so that brings up the count there to 11 people after another chemical tank at a paper mill there exploded. This happened at the Nippon Dynawave Packaging Paper Mill in Longview, Washington, the state. Now leaving 2 dead, 9 others missing and presumed dead after a massive chemical tank ruptured. The tank, which contained hundreds of thousands of gallons of a corrosive substance used in paper production, failed suddenly during a morning shift, releasing dangerous chemicals and causing hazardous conditions and widespread damage inside that facility. And emergency crews still working at the scene actively in what officials say could be one of the deadliest industrial accidents in Washington state history, with investigators now underway to determine what exactly caused the tank to fail and whether safety issues played a role there. So a big story to watch there. We're going to sneak in another quick break as the heavy rain continues live there in Brookland. And when we come back, we've got your forecast. You're watching Brookland News Live. We're back here in just a few moments. a live look right now at the RDOT camera there in Brookland, here in Brookland, I should say. I'm in Brooklyn. As the rain continues, and it is going to be a rainy rest of the week, as well as rain chances continue as we go throughout the week. Tonight, rain chances going to continue, die down just a little bit by Friday. More rain. Saturday, more rain. It's going to be getting up to about the high 70s, the low being in the high 60s or the low, 70s there. So the forecast not getting much brighter. A wet summer is what it's giving right now. We'll have to watch here. We know, of course, we were in a severe drought. We were in desperate need of rain. Now we're getting days and days of rain. So maybe that is a good sign. Actually, I've noted having 2 hours is kind of nice because we have some time to pull up some things. I want to see if we can look at the U.S. drought monitor. Here is the U.S. drought monitor, and I'm wondering here, can I get just Arkansas? I think I can. Here's a look at just Arkansas. You can see D4, exceptional drought. Brookland does not appear to be in that. If I go, it doesn't look like it's going to, maybe it will. It's loading right now, just specifically Craighead County. That's Poinsett County. It doesn't look like it's fully going to let me get it, but you can see Brookland, it looks like, I feel like we might be in between that exceptional drought and the extreme drought, but if we continue to get more rain, this map likely is going to update. And what I'm actually going to start doing here, just as I'm noting we are in an exceptional drought, is monitoring this. So we will monitor this on your screen, and we will bring you updates to where the drought monitor stands. So stick with us for that. I want to turn to this really cool story. Here, one moment. I'm running out of room. I need a bigger desk, y'all. I can't have all these papers do a 2-hour show, and I also have 2 keyboards and 2 mouse on my desk because I have a bunch of different computers running a bunch of different things. So, but it's a lot. Sorry. Just complaining about the room I have on my desk. Okay. So NASA, they are announcing their plans earlier this week to build, like a base on the moon. They want to be able to fly on the moon, but have people that stay on the moon weeks at a time. Kind of like the International Space Station. It wouldn't move, but it'd be like planted on the moon. You heard that right. It's very interesting. I want to play video for you. This is the NASA administrator breaking down how all of this would work. Take a listen.
2 will be the largest commercial payload delivered to the lunar surface ever. Though in this moon-based endeavor, we certainly hope to be breaking records on nearly every mission. The Astrobotic Griffin lander will carry more than 500 kilograms of cargo, including Astrolab's FLIP rover, to the lunar surface. This mission will help mature the capabilities necessary to support future lunar terrain vehicles, autonomous operations, logistics, and especially the LTV astronaut mobility. Moonbase 3 will expand our scientific understanding of the lunar surface. This mission will deliver the first payload selected through NASA's PRISM initiative, a program that brings together universities, researchers, and industry through open competition to solve scientific questions. The anchor scientific mission is Lunar Vertex, which will study lunar swirls, one of the moon's most intriguing mysteries. Now, these unusual formations appear brighter than their surroundings, as portions of the lunar surface are somehow shielded from the effects of the solar wind. Understanding why they exist could improve our understanding of how the lunar environment evolves, how surface materials change over time, and how future infrastructure may perform in these extreme conditions. The Moonbase 3 landings will also deliver payloads from ESA and the Korean Space Agency, demonstrating that the future of lunar exploration is an international effort. Moonbase 2 and 3 are targeted to launch before the end of 2026. Now, these represent the first of more than a dozen missions we expect to announce through the balance of this year as we return, build the base, and never give up the moon again. And as mentioned, just like in decades past, we are taking the world along with us, though this time And eventually, through the power of orbital observation and communication satellites, we will do so with impressive detail on the Moonbase website, which launched, I believe, in the last hour. The website will be a central hub for announcements, for mission updates, for imagery, video, solicitations, and procurement awards, and all the latest breakthroughs from NASA industry and academia. Now, just as the world paused to take notice of Artemis II and its historic mission, this website and all the associated moon-based missions will inspire students, instill curiosity, promote internships, and encourage them to work in industry as scientists, engineers, pilots, and astronauts to build hardware that will go to the moon and to control it from Houston. Perhaps even themselves to walk on the lunar surface as they grow up and carry the fire during the golden age of exploration. So for those waiting patiently, the grand return is close at hand, and we will not slow down. We are moving with the competence and the purpose to accomplish the missions that only NASA is capable of achieving, and we are really just getting started. And now I'll hand it over to Dr. Lori Glaze.
Right. Good afternoon. It's good to see everyone here. Wonderful to see all of our colleagues and partners here today. Thank you so much, Jared, for setting the tone of what truly is a pivotal moment for human exploration. We have several exciting announcements ahead, including new awards and new partnerships that will accelerate our progress for Moonbase. But first, I do want to talk a little bit about the foundation that makes all of this possible, and that foundation is Artemis. The incredible success of the Artemis II mission has taken NASA from proving what is possible to making the extraordinary routine. Just last month, humanity returned to deep space. And I know Jared already mentioned this, but I'm going to take a few more minutes to talk about this. Artemis II is not only a historic journey, it was a comprehensive test of NASA's capabilities as we push farther from Earth.
It's always so cool to see what NASA really does, and the work they put in is something I don't even think I could put enough brain power to. So, thunder is rumbling again here in Brookland. Just amazing to see the incredible work that NASA does, and it's going to be really cool to see. I believe they're planning for Artemis 4. We just got done with Artemis 2. Then you got Artemis 3. Then you got Artemis 4. Artemis 4, they want someone to get on the moon. And it's already cool how they're already planning for this base on the moon, and they've already got plans in place to get the base on the moon, to get like the base up to the moon, to fly these big pieces of equipment for the base on the moon, to the moon. So really cool to see they already have some of that in place, and it's going to be really interesting to see. They've already talked about how they want to bring the world with them, launching that new website you saw a little bit about, so that is extremely cool. Want to talk about this, talk about a little more weather news that we are getting in here really quickly here as we wrap up our last hour of Brookland News Live. This is a look at flooding in Mississippi. It's a scary, scary story. One person is said to have died from all of this. We are learning emergency managers now warning that even moderate rainfall can cause standing water on roads and small stream overflows as heavy rainfall and flooding continue to impact parts of Mississippi. So a dangerous, dangerous story. This comes after multiple rounds of storms moved through the region, leading to rising river levels and flash flood warnings in some areas. It's a similar story that Arkansas is saying in some counties across the state, meaning the ground is so saturated that at any point it could flood. If it rains one more time, it could flood. That's the story in Mississippi, and you already see the dangerous flooding there. So that is going to be a story that we will continue to watch. That is, again, out of Mississippi. A brand new hour of Brookland News Live starts right now.
It's time for all the news you need and more. Brookland News Live starts right now.
Welcome in Brookland News Live. I'm Jackson Mitchell, still with you here. Time now is 3 p.m. We've got a bunch of stories to get to. We've already talked a lot about the big stories making headlines. If you're just joining us for the second hour of Brookland News Live, you can always rewind it. That's the Good thing about being on YouTube, you can always rewind it, watch the first hour. It is Thursday, May 28th, 3 p.m. here, 2 p.m. on... Wait, where am I going? 12 p.m. on the West Coast, 3 on the East, 4 on the East, 1 on the West. What? I don't know. Okay, guys, I believe that second time I got it right. Let me think. They're 2 hours. They're 2 hours behind. 3, 2, 1. So 1 p.m. on the West, 4 p.m. on the East. There we go. I'm sorry. My apologies. We got a long show coming up for you. We got a long hour we've got planned for you, so stick with us. We want to get you caught up on all those big stories that you may have missed. We want to start first with the latest details on the war in Iran. We brought you this at the top of the last hour. There have been no major details that have been gathered from those new talks that a 60-day extension to the current ceasefire could be in place. Reuters reporting that we brought you last hour suggested that President Trump, according to multiple sources, had not completely agreed to all of this, therefore it was not in place. So it's going to be a story to watch. We are going to watch it. Stick with us. You're watching Brookland is Live here. So I want to start you off with this because Representative Rick Crawford, who represents Brookland, is now speaking out on the war in Iran. Take a look. This is the reporting coming in from Jonesboro right now, which is, of course, the local outlet in Jonesboro. They say that Representative Crawford now speaking out on other issues as he returns home after being, as Congress is currently in recess. Give me just one moment. I'm pulling up the reporting so I can read it. I thought I had the tab open, but here we are, and I do not. So, start at second hour. We're not going to. Well, I guess you could say. Okay. Representative Rick Crawford now speaking out, saying, the story saying, quote, speaking while back in his district during the Memorial Day recess, Crawford, who now chairs the United States House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence, said he does not view Iran's latest negotiating posture as credible amid escalating international tensions in the Middle East. Iran reportedly has demanded reparations, sanctions relief, and control over the Strait of Hormuz as part of the ongoing negotiations with the United States and its Western allies. Quote, here's his quote, this is from Rick Crawford, quote, I would say that's not a serious proposal on the part of Iran, Crawford said, quote, I don't think they are in any position to bargain. They've reached a level of pretty much taking whatever the president orders them to take, given the state of their military and the state of their political position. Crawford also suggested President Donald Trump has so far exercised restraint in avoiding military action. Quote, I think the president has shown remarkable forbearance by not engaging military over the last few weeks, Crawford said, but I'm not sure how long the pressure will hold out. Of course, we know strikes have began by the U.S. once again. The retaliation strikes is what they said. So that is going to be something to watch. But no strikes that launched. There were major strikes, like you would see typically in a war. Just retaliation strikes to something Iran had did there. So that is going to be a story to watch. Again, Jonesboro right now out with that reporting here. Okay, I want to get to your next story. Where things stand right now, where the United States and Cuba. It's another big story that you may have been watching before. Give me 1 second. I'm trying to get things right for you. You may have been talked about before. This is another big story that we've been following. President Trump has mentioned a lot about it. I want to show you. This is Marco Rubio yesterday on Cuba saying, quote, Cuba is in a lot of trouble because unfortunately for them, it's run by a bunch of incompetent communists. We want something good for the Cuban people. Having a failed state 90 miles from our shores is a threat to the national security of the homeland. Here is that video by Secretary of Department of State's speaking here. I want to play that video for you. Take a listen.
Cuba's in a lot of trouble because, unfortunately, for them, it's run by a bunch of incompetent communists. And being communist is bad. Being an incompetent communist is like the worst. And but the country's been taken over by this company called Gaesa that basically controls 70% of the economy. None of the money in that company goes to help the Cuban people, none of it. So we'll be talking to them, we'll be working on it. You know, we want something good for the Cuban people, and hopefully there'll be a good outcome there for them. There needs to be. It's 90 miles from our shores, and having it a failed state 90 miles from our shores is a threat to the national security of the United States. Cuba's in a lot of trouble
Rubio,
because, unfortunately,
let me turn
for
it
them,
down. Marco Rubio there speaking. This was yesterday at the cabinet meeting. This comes as relations between the two, United States and Cuba, I'm talking about here, rapidly deteriorating in recent weeks, marking one of the most tense periods between the two countries, well, in decades. The Trump administration has increased economic and military pressure on the communist-led island, including tougher enforcement, to the U.S. embargo and new actions targeting Cuba's energy supply. Reports say U.S. naval forces have also increased their military presence in the Caribbean as officials warn about the growing security concerns just 90 miles off the Florida coast. Tensions escalated even further. This is a story we brought you here. The U.S. Justice Department indicting former Cuban leader Raul Castro and other officials in connection to the 1996 shooting down of planes operated by a group helping Cuban defectors. Cuban officials have strongly condemned the move, accusing Washington of trying to push regime change and warning that military action could lead to, quote, bloodshed. So that's a story to watch there. Okay, I want to bring you this. This is also another interesting story you may have not heard about. This is video and images. You see it there on your screen. Excuse me here.
Yeah, it's interesting. Well, if it wasn't...
That is not the video I wanted to show just yet. I wanted to show this video right here. Here we go. It should change any moment. A UFC arena is being built at the White House. This is ahead of America's 250th birthday. Of course, we know the president loves to go to UFC games when he has the chance to. And I also noticed that as we were taking a live look at the White House, you see the big old stand there. That is, underneath it is the building of the UFC arena. So that is ongoing right now with the White House South Lawn. It will host a mixed martial arts event next month as part of the celebration for America's 250th anniversary and President Donald Trump's 80th birthday. The event is scheduled for June 14th and will feature a temporary 5,000-seat arena complete with a UFC octagon, large video screens, and red, white, and blue staging directly outside the White House. A building already starting for it again. That is June 14th. Renderings of the venue, and I'll go back to the video because renderings are shown in all of this. Showed the venue being a large cage surrounded by thousands of temporary seats and special ringside areas for a full marching band. Trump first proposed the idea last year, saying he wanted to host a major UFC event on the White House grounds. The fight card is expected to feature multiple title bouts, including a lightweight champion match between Ilia Topuria and Justin Gaethje. I believe I'm pronouncing this wrong, but I'm sorry. Trump has been a longtime supporter of the UFC, as I mentioned a few moments ago. Let's take a listen to supporters that it was a man on the street that was done by another news agency. Let's take a listen to what people had to say about all of it.
Well, if it wasn't Trump, I might like it, all right, but I think it's horrible.
I think it'd be awesome. I really do.
Yeah?
I wish we were staying to see it.
Well, it almost looks like a roller coaster coming out of the White House lawn, but really that is the beginning of a makeshift arena that will host the Ultimate Fighting Championship event. Now, that is scheduled to take place on June 14, and it is to celebrate 250 years of American independence, but it also just happens to fall on Donald Trump's birthday. He will be 80 years old. Now, around that stage, there is expected to be 5,000 seats. The tickets are free. UFC is footing the bill. However, there are some reports this morning that sponsorship packages are going for around $1 million US, and that includes ringside seats. We've spoken to a couple of people who have been walking around and spotting this structure this morning to get their thoughts on it.
I think it'd be awesome. I really do.
Yeah?
I wish we were staying to see it.
Well, if it wasn't Trump, I might like it.
I mean, UFC's always been a fun thing, I guess, so might as well make it big.
I'm not a fan, but that's just me. Now, it is a temporary structure. It is expected to be brought back down again once the fight is over.
And the dangers of sepsis have gained national attention following the death of NASCAR star Kyle Busch, who we brought to you last hour. He died after severe pneumonia progressed into sepsis. Reports say Busch had been feeling sick for days before his condition rapidly worsened, showing how quickly someone can go from, well, appearing fine to facing a fierce medical emergency. Now, sepsis can turn deadly in just hours, sometimes starting out what seems like a common illness before rapidly becoming a life-threatening emergency. Doctors say infections like pneumonia, the flu, or even a minor infection can quickly spread through the body, leading to organ failure if not treated early. Common warning signs include high fever, trouble breathing, confusion, and extreme fatigue. Here's a report that the Mayo Clinic did on all of this. Take a listen here.
The medical team in this intensive care unit at Mayo Clinic is on high alert 24/7, watching for signs of sepsis.
Sepsis is a potentially life-threatening complication related to an infection.
Dr. Canon Ramar says every year close to 750,000 people in the U.S. develop a septic reaction. It happens when an infection prompts the immune system to kick into overdrive, causing problems such as kidney failure, liver failure, severe drops in blood pressure, and even death.
It becomes very important that this is recognized early.
That's because the death rate can be very high, up to 75% for people who develop sepsis at home and up to 25% for those who get it in the hospital.
It's almost similar to treating a heart attack or a stroke, where you have a very short window.
That window is 6 hours. Dr. Ramar's team uses what are called sepsis sniffers, technology that monitors things like fever, heart rate, and blood pressure, and alerts the medical team when a patient's in danger.
Okay, I think let's go ahead and activate the sepsis response team.
We have a patient in room number 20. We want to activate the SRT.
If blood tests confirm that's true, the septic response team launches into action.
It's a big multidisciplinary approach to do this. And so all members of the ICU team are actively involved to get this aggressive resuscitation going and to get all things done within that 6-hour window period. Let's get the central line ready.
We did give a dose down in the ED, so continue with that.
We follow what we call as the surviving sepsis resuscitation guidelines.
Methods of best practice developed by the Society of Critical Care Medicine to ensure the best possible treatment for patients.
If the necessary things are done, then the mortality drops down dramatically.
Sniffing out sepsis and saving lives. For Mayo Clinic News Network, I'm Vivian Williams.
Alrighty, there we go. How quickly sepsis can grow, extremely, and there's a big thing to watch. You heard there. Rewind it if you got to. Make sure you know what you need to know about sepsis and how quickly it can grow and how dangerous it really is. Alrighty, I want to warn you here. The video we are about to show may be found disturbing to some viewers. Take a look at this. This is the moment that an Arkansas State Trooper, ran over a young goose on an interstate encampment. Arkansas State Police Director Colonel Mike Hager now defending the trooper who was caught on video running over a young goose on an interstate encampment, saying the situation was about a public safety. The video, which spread real quickly here online, showed 2 adult geese and 2 young geese in the roadway before one of the young birds was hit by the patrol vehicle. The video, sparked major backlash online, as expected here, with many people calling for the trooper to be investigated or even fired. Take a look at this. This is in a Facebook post by Colonel Mike Hager, the director at the Arkansas State Police, saying, quote, in a lengthy Facebook post, "You know what happens when wildlife gets on the interstate? People are caught off guard, swerve in an attempt to avoid the animal and crash. Or a scenario like this plays out and people stop, take pics and videos of the cute scene unfolding in front of them, completely unaware of the imminent danger to the motorist approaching from behind who have no warning that traffic has stopped." In this situation, the trooper tried for 26 minutes to get the geese off the interstate. He called for game and fish. They weren't available. He exhausted his known options. Not really a game plan for this scenario. He even assisted a good Samaritan who had also stopped to help. He had actually been instructed to shoot the birds almost immediately upon arrival because that's what was safest for the humans involved. Whether they knew they were involved or not, he tried his best, to the point we would have had trouble explaining the decision had a motorist been injured as a result. I'm very thankful that wasn't the case. This is a classic example of a lose-lose scenario. Now people are spewing hate, calling for the trooper's head. Hard to imagine why good people wouldn't hate to enter the field of law enforcement and subject themselves to this type of public scrutiny on a daily basis. There you go. So again, now the trooper being defended after his actions to run over a family of geese on an interstate here in Arkansas in Cabot. So crazy story there. Okay, want to take you to this next story. This one's interesting as well. The battle to redistrict, it is continuing across the nation. Here we go. This is in South Carolina and Alabama. This, of course, comes as all of the members of House of Representatives and a lot of senators, they're up for election there. Live look at Capitol Hill on this Thursday, 4/19 on the East Coast. In Alabama, redistricting battles are continuing after federal courts ruled that previous congressional maps may have illegally weakened the voting power of black voters. Lawmakers have faced pressure to redraw districts ahead of the 2026 midterm elections, while civil rights groups continue to push for fairer representation. The case has become one of the most high-profile voting rights battles in the country right now and could impact control of several congressional seats. Take a listen to to an analyst on all of this.
After the Supreme Court's desecration of the Voting Rights Act and the Calais decision, after all, as a 3-judge panel in Alabama, of all places, in which 2 of the judges were Trumpers, just decided that no, Alabama and its legislature are committing intentional racism in eliminating a majority black district, congressional district in Alabama, that even under Calais and the callousness of the Supreme Court to look blindly as the red and MAGA states pick off black representation in the South, even under Calais, they are not going to allow the racist map to go forward, even though the Supreme Court sent it back to the same 3-judge panel. This is great news for democracy and great news for the Democrats and for black empowerment in the South.
Meanwhile, you've also got a battle in South Carolina, a separate redistricting fight. Well, this one focusing on the state's first congressional district, where opponents claim Republican lawmakers used, racial gerrymandering to redraw district lines in their favor. The legal battle has reached national attention as courts review whether the maps violate voting rights protections. Supporters of the current maps argue the districts were drawn legally, while critics say the changes were made to benefit one political party. Now, the U.S. Supreme Court has not made a ruling on this one. They have not said they will take it up. It has not made it there just quite yet. Take a listen to a supporter on all of this.
Decision in Alabama that determined that we could not draw lines based on race. And this was an opportunity for our state to right the wrongs of the past.
Where are all these politicians? They've been around for 50 years. They wait for presidential leadership to all jump to social media and say, yes, I'm for it and I'm for it. Then they can't get it done.
The fireworks in the debate came when the candidates discussed business incentives. York County Congressman Ralph Norman attacked the Attorney General Alan Wilson for a lack of oversight on the Scout Motors project. That led to attacks between Wilson, Norman, and Rom Reddy over Silfab and the Alex Murdaugh murder case.
I've been talking about the boondoggles since it occurred. Obviously, we talked about the fact that they didn't have DNR there for the environmental mitigation. I mean, Ralph, you want to talk about boondoggles? You were out there advocating for Silfab, and that place is on fire up in your congressional district, so don't lecture me about Scout Motors.
Alan, you're lying again. Silfab was a company that came into a vacant building. I had nothing. He's lying about that I own land. The money on the Murdaugh trial, he's costing all these taxpayers, having to retry it. It's not right.
2 people were brutally murdered. They deserve justice, and I will spend whatever it takes to deliver them justice.
Alan Wilson is right about this guy in Silfab. It's a disaster.
There you go, South Carolina gubernatorial candidate speaking out on where things stand there on the battle to redistrict in both South Carolina and Alabama. You are watching Brookland News Live. The sun appears to be peeking out as we take a look live in Brookland right now. We're going to talk more about your forecast coming up later this hour once again. Coming up next, the Supreme Court making a ruling on California and other western states, giving driver's license to illegal immigrants. And still to come, people trapped after a hunt for gold in a Laos cave now found safe. Plus, a Fox News guest growing conspiracy after a lighting issue. Then we've got more news about President Biden suing the DOJ, what that's all about, and the Coast Guard rescuing a hiker in Oregon. Then we're going to talk about why young journalists want to be journalists in a very, very not only crowded field, not fully, I wouldn't say crowded, I'll take that back, but a field that is changing so quickly, a field that not a lot of people understand completely just yet, and how it's changing, why people still want to be journalists, and I'll answer that question too, since I am only 17. We're back here in just a moment. You're watching Brookland News Live. And welcome back. A live look at Brookland right there. We'll take you over to the White House right now. After the Supreme Court has made a decision and declined to hear a legal challenge filed by Florida against California over the state's policy of allowing some immigrants without legal status to obtain commercial driver's license. Here's a legal analyst on what this all means.
It's a big fat nothing. Nothing has changed. Florida was essentially seeking an injunction against California and Washington licensing schemes. There is no injunction. The Supreme Court refused to issue an injunction. Therefore, those licenses and those schemes are still in place and still valid.
Lawsuit. So there you go, a legal analyst saying the lawsuits and everything's still valid because nothing changed because the Supreme Court said they're not going to hear the case. Now to this. People trapped after a hunt for gold in Loyos Cave, now said to be safe and alive after they were trapped. Heavy rain caused flash flooding and a landslide had blocked the exit, leaving rescue teams racing against time to reach them. Officials say at least 5 of the group have been found alive inside the cave. 2 others are still unaccounted for as rescuers work through narrow, flooded passages with limited oxygen and dangerous conditions. Scary, scary moment there if you were inside that cave. I'm kind of a little bit claustrophobic, so I don't think I would have been in the cave, but hopefully those 2 that still have not been accounted for are found very, very soon. Best of luck to them. Well, take a look at this. You might see what a lot of people on social media are saying. Excuse me, a Fox News guest growing a lot of conspiracy as he appears to be wearing, well, a mask. That's at least what social media says. You are taking a look at a video from the New York Post. You can see him appearing on America's Newsroom on Fox News. Fox now issuing a statement after that saying it was caused by a lighting error during a remote interview by a third-party company, not any type of altered image or deception. The network said the guest appeared strange on camera because a mobile camera set up in studio lighting created shadows around the neck and collar area, which made viewers think it looked like a mask or a prosthetic effects. Take a look at this segment that I actually had some fun with laughing as I watched it live on Gutfeld. Take a listen.
Tonight on Should We Be Concerned? Was a recent guest on America's Newsroom wearing a mask. Retired Navy Vice Admiral Robert Harward spoke with Bill and Dana about the ongoing situation in Iran, but it was his neck that caused many viewers to suspect he was actually using a hyper-realistic disguise.
At the end of the day, we're going to have to need a government in Iran that not only hands over the nuclear material, stops threatening the Straits of Hormuz, but quits exporting the Islamic Revolution throughout the region.
Of course, Fox released a statement denying the conspiracy, saying it was a, quote, mobile camera operated by an outside vendor. And lighting conditions in the van, where apparently he was, contrasted with the Vice Admiral's jacket, which caused a shadow to appear on his neck. Right on, Fox. And we reached out to Robert for comment, and he said, I'm a U.S. Navy frogman, not a lizard. But I'm still wondering if there's more to this story. Our very own G. Nelson caught up with Dana to get her side of this controversy.
Oh, hey, Dana, I've been meaning to ask you, this story is crazy. Was the guy really wearing a mask?
Oh, the guy on Newsroom?
Yeah.
No. Gene, I can't believe that even you fell for that. It's just silly. It's ridiculous. It's a conspiracy theory. It's crazy.
Okay. All right.
Or is it?
Greg, you've been Dana Perino this whole time?
I knew it.
Yeah, don't tell her husband.
Yeah, so Gutfeld poking some fun at the moment. Fox News saying it was because it was a mobile van, lighting, caused some shadow on the neck there. That was the statement from Fox News. Alrighty, young journalists, they're answering the question why they want to go into this field. Take a listen here. This is those young journalists.
And the fact of the matter is,
Journalism needs each and every one of you, perhaps more so right now than ever before in its history.
I feel like I have to share truth. Like, that is the one thing that is there's one standstill of society, and that's the truth.
I like also like having other people's voices heard.
We need you there, telling those stories, to make sure that not a single voice falls through the cracks.
I believe in journalism, yeah, it's really important. It's a key factor in society.
Being late to the old way means you are right on time to build a brand new one.
Now, being in the newsroom, I know that there's a place for us, and we're not just reporting, we're writing about this in a specific way that not a lot of people can do.
It's scary because it matters. You are indeed stronger than you think.
I think we should choose to be optimistic because I feel like it's all about mindset. If we go in nervous, we're probably going to do a bad job, so we just have to be optimistic about it all.
There it is.
Yeah, the question, why do people want to go, young journalists still want to go into the field, that it is changing so much. It's not that it's that the truth is being altered more and more because people are no longer consuming the news the way they used to. That's why I hope all of you eventually join us here on YouTube every day at 2 p.m. I'm trying to become more consistent. I'll be here every day next week with Brookland News Live, so be ready for that. I'll be here tomorrow with Brookland News Live. I'm trying to be more consistent with my news coverage so you guys are able to join us. We bring you the truth, lots of analysis. I am not a journalist with opinions. I'm a journalist that can bring you context, add context to a story. Going back to just a few moments ago when we covered the story about Biden and Joe Biden now speaking out in that new CBS News interview. I've got context about that because I remember covering the moment the history of his campaign and his entire presidential campaign. So that is going to wrap up this edition of Brookland News Live on this Thursday, May 28th. I want to thank all of you for joining us throughout the last about 2 hours here. Remember, you can join us each weekday at 2 p.m. Thanks for joining us. I'm Jackson Mitchell. We'll see you right back here tomorrow at 2 p.m.